The United States crushing 50% tariff on some Indian goods has kicked in. Those tariffs are the highest in Asia as President Trump pressed ahead with the levies to punish New Delhi for buying Russian oil. The new tariffs will double the existing 25% duty on Indian exports that took effect on August 7th. After years of nurturing closer economic and security links, India and the U.S. now find themselves at odds over Trump's trade war. The sky-high rate leaves India facing a likely slump in trade with its largest export market. The tariffs cast a doubt on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's plans to turn the South Asian country into a big manufacturing powerhouse. Higher U.S. tariffs puts India's export competitiveness at risk compared to competitors like Vietnam and China. Worries have increased over a trade deal as a U.S. trade delegation originally planned to visit India for discussions from August 25th to the 29th has postponed its trip. India is looking to move away from the U.S. and deepen partnership with other countries, including the BRICS bloc. Modi is set to meet President Xi Jinping next week during a security summit in China. This will be his first visit to China in 7 years, and it is part of a larger effort by Beijing and New Delhi to mend ties that had fallen amid severe border clashes in 2020. Separately, Russia and India have vowed to expand trade from $50 billion to $100 billion over the next 5 years. Certain key exports such as textiles, footwear, gems and jewelry are at risk. However, some vital sectors will not be subject to U.S. tariffs. For example, imports of electronic goods will be exempt, protecting for the time Apple's significant new manufacturing spending in India. Additionally, pharmaceutical exports will not be impacted for now. The economic impact may be cushioned by the fact that India's economy is largely driven by domestic demand rather than exports, so shoring up consumer and business sentiment is key to faster growth. That is reflected in the government's plan to cut GST rates. Private consumption makes about 60% of India's GDP. According to Citigroup, India's annual GDP growth is at risk of a 0.6 to 0.8% decline due to the combined 50% tariffs. Still, the U.S. is India's biggest export market, with shipments of $87.4 billion last year. However, that still amounts to only 2% of India's total GDP. As U.S. tariffs kick in, we spoke to experts across industries as they weighed in on the potential impact of the 50% duties on Indian imports to the U.S.
This 50-55% odd of the exports of India to United States are going to become dead, literally. No relation whatsoever with the GST reforms and the concessions which have been proposed with the tariff. I don't think this makes any difference. By the way, all exports were exempt from the GST earlier and all other domestic taxes. So taxes, GST, whether it is reduced or not reduced, makes no difference as far as exports are concerned.
The five major industries are textiles, gems and jewelry, seafood, auto components, leather and footwear. Now you need to bear in mind that spread across these five industries are predominantly small and medium enterprises. So they would clearly be hit by the Trump tariff.
Yeah, there isn't at the moment. I mean, Trump has been emboldened because the Japanese, when faced with his threats, rolled over. The South Koreans rolled over. The Europeans rolled over. Prime Minister Modi is not going to roll over for two reasons, one of which is pure nationalism. There's no way in which India is going to be pushed around and bullied. But the second one has to do with his internal domestic constituencies. He can't alienate certain groups and expect to win his party to win local and national elections going forward. So that's a large part of what's going on now. I think a deal can be done once bridges have not been burned. They've been damaged, but they haven't been burned. And
China, definitely. No trust. What we have to do is a Vietnam kind of a model, a Taiwan kind of a model, where you allow investments, you allow technology transfer to come in so that there is a cost to a future Chinese aggression. We have to get the capital from China to fund our growth. And we have to link into the global supply chain, where China is the value adder to 35% of global supply chain. So you have to engage with China.
I think some sectors which are excluded from this 50% tariff are, some of the bulk drugs in the pharma sector, smartphones, electronics, chips, and so on and so forth. If you keep those things aside, I would feel that out of a total, export India does to the US of about 70 to $80 billion, at least half of it will be very badly hit. Because 50% is a huge tariff, and no amounts of margins to be adjusted and so on and so forth will be able to, offset the impact of 50% tariff.